Well, here's the Onyx the Cat, and he's going to introduce the General Lee headquarters flag, which is the Ark of the Covenant. See the Ark of the Covenant in there? It's got 13 stars arranged in the shape of an Ark of the Covenant, and this was only used by General Robert Edward Lee's headquarters for about half the war. At the time, most of the Southerners were very, very heavy into ancient Israel symbols, the Torah, or the Old Testament as the Christians call it, and basically a lot of the older Israeli Jewish practices. Interesting also that Robert E. Lee was chosen first by Abraham Lincoln to be the commander of the Union forces, but when Virginia was invaded, he decided to protect his home state. Both Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis were not advocates of slavery. They did not believe in slavery. But, you know, the war was not over slavery. It actually was over the tariff issue and the ability of states not to be raked over their coals by the tariff system for the benefit of another section of the country, which would have been the northern industrialists and the railroads. So, also, Robert E. Lee was, if you actually look at every single commander that ever existed in the United States, Robert E. Lee was probably the most just of all of them. As a matter of fact, when the South crossed the Potomac and went into Northern Territory, General Lee forbade the troops from looting or doing any kind of damage to the properties in the North, whereby, I gotta get this guy out of here, man. You better not tear down my flag, you little goo-goo. It's going in there. But I got up there with some of that Speedy Stitcher cord, polyester cord. It's up there fairly well though. But he forbade the Confederate troops from doing any kind of damage to the towns in the North when they actually crossed into the Potomac. As a matter of fact, there was a fire that was started in one of the towns, not by the Confederates, but by the Union troops, accidentally when they were trying to burn some supplies that the Confederates could have got hold of, and the Confederates put out the fire and saved the Union town. At the same time this was going on, Union troops were down south doing massive damage to Confederate civilian lands and to peoples and all that. So General Lee was an extremely honorable man, very religious, and he did not actually, neither him nor Jefferson Davis believed in the South splitting away, but it was when the South was attacked that they decided to join up and go with the Confederacy. Now, if you look at, the first 7 states that seceded was South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and Louisiana. But then the last states that seceded was North Carolina, Arkansas, Tennessee. I'm missing one. But I'd probably think of it in a second. I'm just doing this off of rote memory. But the last states that seceded actually they seceded because their sister states were attacked. And actually, Kentucky and Missouri, that would make the 13, were recognized by the Confederacy. And they had representatives in the Confederate Congress and the Confederate capital, which was located in Montgomery, Alabama. So again, let's see if that's Feather the Mama. See, the Mama looks just like, the sun, that's the sun right there. That's the Mama. And she looks, that one son looks exactly like the Mama. The other 2 sons, one looks like halfway between the father, and the other one looks exactly like the father. It's kind of weird how they came out like that. Usually cats don't really come out exactly like their parents. This one did. Dixie came out looking like Boots the cat, Boots the Confederate cat, I call him. And Paws looks like a combination of the mama and the daddy. He's got the white paws like Daddy's got, Boots. And he's got the black color. We could get your... It's in the cat scratching post, you little freaking... So let me see if I can do that again. We had South Carolina, Mississippi, Okay, Florida, Alabama, Georgia. Oh yeah, Louisiana and Texas, that's 7. And North Carolina, Arkansas, Tennessee. Oh, Virginia. Jeez, Virginia, of course, Virginia. That's the 11th. I left out Virginia. I can't believe it. I left out Virginia. One of the biggest ones to secede. So, like I said, I was just doing this off of rote memory. So, but again, like the Southerners were very much into the ancient Israeli symbols and the Torah, or the Old Testament, as Christians call it. Really, what happened here, and the real outcome of the war was fascism won, or basically Marxism. A lot of Karl Marx was actually a fan of Abraham Lincoln, believe it or not. German Bismarck was a fan of Abraham Lincoln. Before Adolf was around, German Bismarck was a fan of Adolf Hitler. Abraham Lincoln, or Adolf Lincoln, if you want to call him. And, it was a time where, it was the independent citizen soldier farmers were fighting against centralized control. I mean, the cover story was slavery. That's basically what the cover story was. But the South was offered the Corwin Amendment, which would have made, still actually on there, which would have made slavery permanently constitutionally protected forever in the South if the South would come back into the Union and pay the tariffs, which were so exorbitantly high, they would have never been able to do it. Which, if you look at, what that actually meant, say the South could pay the tariffs, guess where the workload would have went on? The ones actually doing the work in the plantation, which would have been the slaves. The northern money wouldn't have cared about that as long as they got their money. Which is another situation. You know what it is? I think low intellect people don't realize. Get your butt off here. I knew that was going to be a scratching post. The low intellect people don't realize they don't want to know. Or a lot of people are just emotional yo-yos. They don't want to know, or they're just they pick the side and they're done. They can't see the facts. They pick the side and they're done. So anyway, get your butt out of here. It's my little rambunctious kitten here. He's like my dog. He follows me everywhere. So anyway, so interesting enough, that's the Ark of the Covenant flag. And I'm going to have something else out here about maybe a doom and gloom video, you might call it, but it's going to be very factual because I found out some information that talks about the Earth changes and the polar reversing of the Earth. That's going to be coming up next here. That's going to be very factual. I'm going to interject some of my common sense into it, but it's a ways off. Don't worry about it. It's a ways off for now. So, get time to prepare. A lot of time, a couple of decades or more. But it actually has a pinpoint date, which was in the Torah. The Torah. A lot of people don't realize what that book is. It's more than, it's religion and science mixed in. The Ark of the Covenant was something else beyond just something religious. It actually had power. And I think General Lee should have stuck with this flag for the entire duration of the war. It might have been different because there were times where they would have held off just a little bit longer in Georgia, and maybe one less success by General Sherman, Abe Lincoln would not have won his second term. And the other president that would have been president would have made a deal with the South, and the South would have been an independent nation today. It actually was. It's not a matter that the South wasn't trying to take over the United States. The South was just trying to be independent. And it was a critical junction whereby, is it worth it to expend all these money and deaths and lives and all this type of stuff and material just to put these people back in? What are we getting out of this, right? It was very close that, it wasn't like the South had any chance of winning and taking over the United States. That wasn't their purpose. Their purpose was just to be independent. They almost did it. I personally think it would have been a good omen to keep this flag the entire time. But later on, he adopted the standard flag that was issued by the Confederate Congress. That was probably the stainless banner, or the one with the red stripe on the end there, which I have inside, which is a 5x8. This is actually a fairly large, this This is the largest General Lee size flag, the General Lee headquarters Ark of the Covenant flag I can find. I got it on eBay. It might go up there after the Bonnie Blue wears out. So, but in the meantime, I'm probably going to take it to SCV camp meetings to remind people what the Holy Cause was about. And I'm going to show you what the Third National looks like. That would probably have been one of the ones that General Lee used after this. He probably should have stuck with this one, though. I think it was a good omen. General Lee would probably used, maybe not this one, because it was only like the 3-4 months in the last end of the war. This was the Third National flag. The one before it was the Second National flag. It did not have the red stripe on it on the end, which sometimes was mistaken for a flag of surrender, because when there was no wind, the flag would be drooping down. You wouldn't see, the canton in the corner. You'd only see the white. So you might have been using a stainless banner. So, like you can see, these flags aren't hardly flying at all. So, if that flag stainless banner was not, was under no wind, it would look like a flag of surrender. So that's why they put that. They made the Third National. I really like the Third National. It's a nice flag. We might put that General Lee flag up there later on after this Bonnie Blue wears out, or maybe I'll go to a bigger Bonnie Blue. They have on eBay 5x8 Bonnie Blues. I couldn't find any, and I said, "Oh, eBay's got everything except for the flag with the X, unless you're getting Mississippi or Georgia State or something like that, or a Third National. You can't get this standard battle flag. That's the only one they won't sell on eBay. But everything else they sell."